Good morning. Yeah, technically still good morning. It's not hot anymore, but that's okay. It's delicious. It's good stuff. So, I didn't come first thing in the morning to do my thing. The last 2 mornings I have gotten sidetracked. So I am coming to you now. Let's do a little song, shall we? Also, if you hear drilling in the background, my husband's building something downstairs in the living room. Just ignore it. Okay, beloved, beloved, let us love one another, let us love one another. For love is of God, and everyone who loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. He that loveth not, knoweth not God, for God is love. God is love. Beloved, beloved, let us love one another. 1 John 4, 7, and 8. You're welcome. So, today's verse is coined the Sermon on the Plain. Now, I didn't actually know that. I looked it up because a lot of you probably know the Sermon on the Mount. And if you don't, it's in Matthew, and it is longer and more detailed. And in Luke, the Sermon on the Plain is more of a summary. It's smaller. Now, they're not sure if Jesus gave this sermon multiple places and Luke is giving us, his whatever, or if it's the same place and Luke is giving more of a summary of the talk and Matthew goes more into detail. But they call this one the Sermon on the Plain in Luke, and the one in Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount. And what you might know is the Beatitudes, right? Blessed are those who hunger, for they shall be full. Blessed are the, poor, because God will, that. And so, the verse today is Luke 6:28, and this is the verse. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Right before that, it says, love your enemy. So I'm going to give you a synopsis of what's happening, okay? So, at the beginning of chapter 6, Jesus clashes with the Pharisees. Shocker. But Jesus and the disciples are going through the fields, grain fields, and it's on the Sabbath, and they're like, the disciples are picking some of the grain and rubbing it and eating it kind of, as they go through. And the Pharisees are just looking to catch Jesus in something. Because the Pharisees are full of anger and power and control and legalism, and they don't have God in them. They have control in them. They have religion. They don't have a relationship. So the fact that Jesus comes and flips all of their rituals and traditions on their head just enrage them. They want him dead. They want to catch him doing something so they can self-righteously, have a reason to kill him. So they're looking to destroy him. So they have a clash about the disciples, whatever. And then right after that, I'm not sure how long of a time period, but after that, Jesus is in the synagogue and there's a guy with a withered hand, and the Pharisees are like, oh, do it, we want to just knock you out. And so Jesus basically is like, what's better, to do good or to, and heal this guy, or to let him suffer, so I can keep the traditions, and he basically is like, let me see, takes a break. Oh, hold on. Telling the Pharisees that their legalism, right, is not good and it's not of God. And so, anyway, so that happens. So after all this mess, right, Jesus is exhausted. He's like, still God, and he's also man. So he's like, I need a rest, so they take a break onto the mountain with the 12 and they rest and stuff. And when they come down the mountain, people have all heard, right, about how Jesus healed that guy and the stuff that he's been doing. So people come from like all over the place because they want to be healed physically. They want to be healed of unclean spirits, like all the stuff. So it says in the Bible that people were all coming up and crowding on Jesus and touching him because there was power coming from him. And everybody that touched him got healed, all of them. Now, here's the thing. That just seems amazing. The Son of God, God in human form, powers emanating from him. So you just touch him and you're healed. Like that's cool. Anyway, so this all happens. People are like coming from all over. There's a whole big crowd. People are crowding. They're trying to touch him and get healed and stuff. And people are being healed, like I said, from diseases and all the stuff, right? So this is when Jesus gives the Beatitudes message to them. And he talks about loving your enemies and praying for those who curse you, and that you should give without expecting it back. And it's like, and he says, what credit is it to you if you love those who love you? Even the sinners and evil people can do that. What credit is it to you if you give or are good to people who are good back to you, or you give to someone who you can expect to get that back from? What credit is it to you? Who cares if you do that? And this is where he gives all that stuff. He says, but basically I tell you, you should love your enemy. You should pray for those who curse you, and you should give without expecting it back. And he gives this whole breakdown, right, of the Beatitudes or whatever. And then he says, after that, he says in like a little parable, after he's telling all the people that came that he was talking to or whatever, he says, listen, it's like if you have a neighbor and they've got a speck or some dust in their eye, right? Or like a wood chip or something, a small wood chip. And you go over and you're like, oh my gosh, you've got this wood chip in your eye. Let me help you. But you've got a huge plank coming out of your own eye. That would be ridiculous. Why wouldn't you remove the plank from your own eye and then help your neighbor? Or it also says a good tree bears good fruit. A good tree doesn't bear bad fruit. A bad tree doesn't bear good fruit. And like, I'm looking at all of this and I think it's like, I've said this in multiple things, that it comes down to the heart of the matter, And he says after that, you call me Lord and you call to me Lord, Lord, but then you don't do what I say to do. And he says, he analogies it to a weak foundation being just destroyed by the storm, or a strong foundation, going down deep and building on the rock, and that when the storm comes, the house won't be moved. And so anyway, I was reading through this whole thing, and there's listen, no one is perfect. That's why we need Jesus. And so when I say this, it's not because I believe that I'm like, when you hear people go, well, I don't go to church because it's full of hypocrites. You're like, okay, well, sick people go to the hospital. Yes, it is. I'm not talking about like we're all broken. What I'm talking about is I get so tired of hearing Christians talk about loving each other and all the things that Jesus talks about here, right? But not actually doing it. It's just for platitudes. It's just for I got to get to my work day, but thanks, Mark. Hey, come back at the end of your work day and watch the whole thing. I'm talking about Jesus. It's good for you. I love you like a crazy person. And thank you. So anyway, I get really tired of like hearing those platitudes and hypocrisy and the whole ideology of like doing good, but not actually doing it. Just taking a picture, with a filter that makes it look like you're doing good. It says in the Bible not to let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. But what we do is we do something good and we want to make sure the camera's rolling so that we can be like, look at the good that I did. That's your reward. That's all you get. God doesn't give you some sort of special golden star because you went around posting all your special things that you did for the world. this is what I think it comes down to. The Beatitudes come down to humility and meekness, which is strength and power under control. And it comes down to removal of pride and self. That's what they come down to. That's what they come down to. Because ultimately, I really believe that loving others, loving your enemy, that's hard. We talk about loving each other and accepting each other, but I want to give you a picture of what that looks like. Jesus loved people, but he didn't go to them and go, you're an adulterer and you're going to be stoned by all these Pharisees, but I want everyone to love me. So it's okay if you're an adulterer and it's okay if you stone her. I just want you to love me. He didn't go and accept all of their crap. But he did go to them. He went to the woman at the well in the heat of the day when nobody else was there. He went to Samaria because he had to go there for her. He didn't have to physically go there. He wouldn't have wanted to go there. Technically, the Jews would have gone around Samaria on purpose. He went there for her. And we really look down on the woman at the well, just sidebar, because she was married 5 times. But in those days, the fact that she was given a certificate of marriage 5 times, it does not speak to the fact that she was a harlot or a hussy or whatever, that she was loose. And we really mischaracterize her, because the fact that she was given a certificate of marriage by 5 people means that she was probably beautiful and that she was probably a woman of good character, but she was probably infertile and she dealt with fertility issues. Just saying. Anyway, here's the thing. We have to look at someone who bugs us and love them anyway. That doesn't mean we have to agree with them. That doesn't mean we have to go around just accepting willy-nilly all the evils of the world. But we do have to go. We have to be salt and light. Someone has to know they can trust you. You know what? I'm telling you right now, I might have enemies and I might have people that hate me, but they know that I'm kind. They know that I care. I don't have to agree with everything everybody says, but we have to get rid of all of our pride and our self and needing to have the platitudes of the world and all of that. We've got to have a humble heart that seeks to be like Jesus. That doesn't mean we agree with everything. That doesn't mean we condone everything. That doesn't mean we go around judging all your stuff. It means that we get rid of all of that stuff and we say, look, I love you. You have a semi coming down the road and it is going to destroy you and crush you. I'm willing to tell you that because I love you. I'm not going to pound your head with all this virtue, but I am going to tell you the truth. We get it twisted. We get it all twisted up. Anyway, I gotta go. I gotta go to work. And I love you like a crazy person. Listen, be good to one another. Like, really. People that you don't like, be good to them. It's really liberating. I mean, there are shackles and chains and burdens that you carry around with you by having anger and hatred in your heart and jealousy and envy and all these things in your spirit for other people, and only surrounding yourself with people that you like and that you get along with and that you're, you know what, like that's dumb. That's weak. That's weak. There's something liberating about being able to say, I'm not shackled by your opinions or by hate or by the enemy. I'm not shackled by it. I'm not shackled by it. I have enough overflowing in abundance, pressed down, shaken together, that I can love on you, because that's what you need. You are broken. You need someone to love on you. And that love really comes from Jesus. I'm just showing you in a small fraction what it looks like. And not very well at that. Seriously, I have such a terrible temper. I know. You're like, right. No, I do. I pray for me. Anyway, I do have to go. So anyway, be good to one another. Don't forget, you are one of the one another's. Don't forget to be good to yourself. I love you, and I mean it, Peanut. Mwah.